The tenants on 17 kept their doors locked. I found the floor by counting stairs when the elevator broke down. The building manager had told me there were 20 floors when I signed the lease. I lived on 12, right in the middle, which felt safe somehow. Not too high to take the stairs if I needed to, not so low that street noise kept me up at night. But when the elevator died on a Tuesday morning and I had to walk down, I started counting. 12 to 11, 11 to 10. The numbers matched the signs on each landing, brass plates screwed into concrete walls that had been painted over so many times they looked like they were coated in wax. 10 to 9, 9 to 8. Then I reached a landing with no number at all. I almost didn't notice. The door looked like all the others, heavy gray metal with a push bar and a small wire glass window, but there was no brass plate, just 4 screw holes where one should have been and a rectangle of darker paint underneath. I pressed my face to the glass and looked through. A hallway, identical to the one on my floor, same industrial carpet, same overhead lights, same cream-colored walls. I could see 3 doors from where I stood, each one painted the same brown as mine. But something felt off about the perspective, like the walls were slightly closer together than they should have been. I kept walking, 7 to 6, 6 to 5. When I reached the lobby, I mentioned it to Paul, the day security guard. "You must have miscounted," he said without looking up from his phone. "Happens all the time when people take the stairs, you get turned around." But I hadn't gotten turned around, I'd been paying attention. That night I took the stairs again. The elevator was working, but I needed to know. I counted carefully, touching each brass plate as I passed it. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, and then the landing with no number. I stood there for a long time, staring at those 4 screw holes, then I tried the door. It opened easily, no resistance at all, and I stepped into the hallway I'd seen through the window. The air felt different. Thicker maybe, or just stiller than air should be. The overhead lights were on, but they seemed dimmer than the ones on my floor, like they were running on a lower voltage. And the hallway was completely silent. No television sounds bleeding through walls, no footsteps, no voices, nothing. There were 6 doors total, 3 on each side, just like my floor, but none of them had numbers. Just smooth brown surfaces and brass peepholes that looked like eyes. I walked to the nearest door and knocked. No answer. I tried the second door, the third. I knocked on all 6 and nobody answered, but I could feel that the apartments weren't empty. It wasn't something I could explain, just a sense that there were people on the other side of those doors, standing very still, waiting for me to leave. I went back to the stairwell and climbed to my floor. My hands were shaking when I unlocked my apartment. The next morning, I went to the building management office on the ground floor. A woman named Carla ran the place, middle-aged and efficient, the kind of person who answered emails at 6 in the morning. "I need to see the floor plans," I said, "for the whole building." She gave me a puzzled look. "Is something wrong with your unit?" "No, I just want to see the layout, how many floors there are, that kind of thing." She pulled up a PDF on her computer and turned the screen toward me. 20 floors, just like she'd said when I moved in. The document had been filed with the city in 1972, updated in 1998 when they renovated the lobby. I pointed to the gap between floors 8 and 9. "What about here? What about it? There's a floor there between 8 and 9, no number on the door, but it's there." Carla zoomed in on the document, then shook her head. "There's nothing between 8 and 9, just the stairwell connecting them, see? The ceiling height matches up perfectly." But it didn't. I could see that now, studying the measurements. The distance between 8 and 9 was nearly twice what it should have been. Somebody had just drawn the connecting line and hoped nobody would measure. "I've been in that floor," I said. "Yesterday, there are 6 apartments." Carla closed the PDF and folded her hands on her desk. Her expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes. "You should probably forget about that." Forget about it? Some things in old buildings don't make sense on paper. Renovations that didn't get properly documented, spaces that got closed off. It's better not to ask too many questions. "Who lives there?" She stood up, signaling the conversation was over. "I really can't help you, but if I could give you advice, I'd tell you to use the elevator from now on." I left the office feeling like I'd been warned, but I'm not good at leaving things alone. That night, I went back. I brought my phone this time, flashlight app ready in case those dim overhead lights went out. The door to the unnumbered floor opened just as easily as before, and I stepped into that too still hallway. I walked to the first door on the left and knocked. Then I pressed my ear against the wood. I could hear breathing, slow and steady like someone sleeping, but it was coming from too many places at once, a dozen sleeping breaths overlapping in the same small space. I moved to the next door, more breathing. And under it, something else. A wet sound, rhythmic and soft, like someone chewing with their mouth open. The third door was silent. I almost moved on, but then I heard a child crying, quiet and hopeless, the kind of crying that came from someone who knew nobody would answer. I knocked. "Hey, are you okay in there?" The crying stopped instantly. "I can call someone if you need help. Do you need help?" A voice came from behind the door, adult, not a child, low and calm. "We don't need anything." I heard, "You should go back to your floor." I stepped away from the door. My heart was pounding now, some animal part of my brain screaming that I needed to leave, but I forced myself to walk to the door across the hall. This time I didn't knock, I just looked through the peephole. The apartment on the other side was wrong. The walls were too close together, the ceiling too low. And the furniture was arranged in a way that made no sense, chairs facing corners, a table pushed against the window. But it was the person that made me stop breathing. She was standing in the middle of the room, facing the door, facing me. She had dark hair and pale skin and eyes that didn't blink, and she was wearing the same clothes I'd worn yesterday, the same jeans, the same gray sweater, even the same shoes. She smiled at me. I watched her lips move through the peephole, and I felt my own face muscles twitch in response, like we were connected by invisible strings. Then she started walking toward the door. I ran. I crashed through the stairwell door and took the stairs 3 at a time, not caring about the noise, not caring about anything except getting back to my floor. I burst into the 12th floor hallway and didn't stop until I was inside my apartment with the door locked and chained. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch and watched the door, waiting for a knock that never came. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my door. No envelope, just a piece of paper folded in half. It said, "Stop looking." I recognized the handwriting. It was mine. I tried to leave after that. I called the landlord and said I needed to break my lease, that I'd pay whatever penalties they wanted. But Carla told me there was a 6-month waiting period for early termination, and it had only been 4 months since I'd moved in. "You'll need to wait it out," she said, "unless you can find someone to take over your lease." I posted ads everywhere. I offered to pay the first month's rent for whoever took the place, but nobody followed through. They'd come for a viewing, seem interested, then ghost me completely. One guy made it all the way to signing the paperwork before he suddenly changed his mind in the lobby. "This place feels wrong," he said, and walked out. I started using the elevator exclusively. I avoided the stairwell completely, even during fire drills. But I could still feel that floor between 8 and 9, pressing down on me from above or pulling at me from below, depending on where I was in the building. And I started noticing things. The woman in Unit 1214 wore the same outfit I'd worn 3 days earlier. The man in 1209 had the same coffee stain on his shirt that I'd gotten on mine last week. Small things, easy to dismiss as coincidence. But then I saw myself. I was coming home from work, stepping into the lobby, when I saw her walking toward the elevator. Same height, same build, same face. She was carrying the same bag I had over my shoulder. She was even humming the same song I'd had stuck in my head all day. She got into the elevator and the doors closed before I could move. I watched the numbers climb. 12, 13, 14. Then the display flickered and went dark for just a second. When it came back on, it showed a blank space where a number should have been. I haven't tried to leave since then. I'm still in my apartment on the 12th floor, and my lease still has 2 months left on it. I use the elevator, I keep my head down, I don't ask questions, but sometimes late at night I hear footsteps in the hallway. They walk past my door, slow and deliberate, and stop right outside. I see the shadow of feet blocking the light under my door. And I know someone is standing there, looking through my peephole, studying my apartment the same way I studied theirs. I never open the door, because I'm afraid of what I'll see. And I'm even more afraid that when I look through the peephole back at them, I'll be staring at my own face from the other side. Drop your verdict in the comments. Wait, what?